Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, everybody.
My name is Kelly Bethay. I am the president of Heed Consulting Group, and today we are going to have Mr. Michael Bowers, who is the CEO of our consulting group, present to you the 5 W's of cyber insurance for business in 2020. Just a little about us. We are a consulting group that came together in 2019, but that was after some pretty long careers, myself in insurance and international marketplace, and Mr. Bowers being an IT professional for over 25 years. It seemed like a good synergy for the two of us to join forces, and that is how we created Heed Consulting Group. So today you're going to be dazzled by Mr. Michael Bowers with his insights on cyber insurance and what that means in the changing marketplace in 2020. So one thing I would like to point out and mention is that this is one of a two-part series. Today, we're going to be discussing these 5 W's, and then later this week, we're going to have a roundtable discussion with some powerhouses and industry professionals. One from Markel Insurance, Jafir, another from SciSure, so with Kristen, and as well as Michael Bowers and myself. So it should be a very informative discussion that we're going to have later this week as well. So make sure you tune back in for that. And at this point, I would like to turn this over to Mr. Michael Bowers.
Thank you, Kelly. I am just trying to make sure I get this thing here. For some reason, I'm getting a little bit of an issue sharing my screen, so just bear with me just a second. But thank you, everybody, for joining us today. As Kelly said, we will be doing a presentation on the 5 W's of cyber insurance and what that means for organizations today, and especially for those who are looking to purchase cyber insurance. This is the time to get your information correct and know exactly what's out there. And so we're going to kind of walk everybody through that in just a second here. I believe I've got this issue resolved right now. So once again, as Kelly said, my name is Michael Bowers. I am the CEO here of Heed Consulting Group. Been doing IT now for 25 years, more than I like to admit, but it's been a while. And so I've been doing this for quite some time, way before cybersecurity was even really a thing, to be quite honest with you. Specializing in business resilience and cybersecurity is kind of what I've been doing most of my career, helping organizations stay up and running, improve operations. I've been a director of IT as well as a few other consulting positions, working with really large environments, trying to get people through compliance or even just doing large rollouts. So been doing this for quite some time. And I happen to be a 3rd grade homeschool teacher. Right now we are in DEAR, which is drop everything and read. So you're going to be multitasking.
I happen to be a 1st grade distance learning and preschool teacher at the moment as well. So
exactly.
We're all in this same boat together here. With no oars. There are no oars in our boat.
That is for sure. As Kelly mentioned at the beginning, and I apologize, the slide was not available at the time, we do have another event coming up in a couple of days on Thursday, May 7th. This is going to be a second part of our ongoing discussion about cyber insurance this month. And so we're going to be having a roundtable discussion. We're going to have a couple of professionals from the cyber insurance industry. One being Kirsten Bay, she's CEO of SciSure. They're brokers working with a lot of MSPs and helping companies get their cyber insurance. Donald Carter, he's one of our clients, the CFO, Green Fruit Avocados. He'll be on the call as well, discussing some of the experiences that he's had filing claims and protecting an environment. So you'll be able to hear some of his insights and his personal experiences. And then we're going to have Jafir Young, who's also a property and casualty broker. He works for Markel, big underwriters for cyber insurance. And so we'll be having them on the call on Thursday. We'll be discussing everything from the types of claims that are being done, the pitfalls that people are having, and just what's going on out there in cyber insurance today. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Lots of good information for you. Looking forward to that. So I know the question on everybody's mind is, why are we doing this? This is a very good question. We're not an insurance broker by any means, but we have a lot of clients and a lot of colleagues that have a lot of needs, and so we end up discussing this a lot. And so the first one being that cyber insurance is a trending topic among our clients right now. People working from home, so their exposure is far greater than it's ever been. And so as people are saying, how can we minimize our risk aside from beefing up their cybersecurity, there also comes the need to implement insurance policies, and then how do you cover the right thing? So it's been something we've been having a lot of individual conversations on, and so we had a need to go ahead and make this available to the rest of the world to kind of help answer these questions ahead of time. Surprisingly enough, we've actually had some people believe that cyber insurance can replace their cybersecurity practices, and so they've opted to just go ahead and beef up their insurance, thinking that they have an issue that they're covered no matter what. They don't have to do the stuff today as long as they have a good policy, and that's not true. We're going to discuss that in a little bit. We've also witnessed businesses just close their doors because they were not covered or prepared for ransomware attacks, for data loss. There's lots of things that cyber insurance can cover, and if you're not aware of them and you get hit with any of these attacks or incidences, well, we've seen businesses close, like literally shut down, either reopen as a new name or something else, but they've lost their databases, they've lost all their inventory, they've lost everything. And so it's a very serious threat to businesses moving forward. You got to have that ability to get back up and running, and we'll go into how cyber insurance will help with that. We've also seen claims rejected for a lot of reasons, and it's nothing like going through a whole process or even thinking that you have a team to call on, and they find out that you either have not done what you're supposed to do or you've done something that you were not supposed to do. Most underwriters will have a set of rules that you must comply with in order to get a good claim, and we're going to discuss those things in a little bit, because there's nothing like the headache of a ransomware attack, and then you can't even deal with it professionally, and now you're just on your own. So it's a very stressful place to be, and Donald will talk about that on Thursday from his experience. We'll go into a bit about that today as well. And then it's just a public service. People just need to know that cyber insurance does exist. It's a real thing, and many businesses need it, and without it, they can be in grave danger. So what cyber insurance is designed for is what many people don't realize is that it's just designed to help businesses address the expenses that will come up with data breach. And that means things like an investigation. It could be your losses. You have to notify your customers that their information is now out there, and that's on you to do. And so cyber insurance agencies are designed, cyber insurance policies are designed to give you, the insured, the resources to then get through this incident. And so one of the first things you need to do is get a forensic investigation of just how this thing happened, to make sure that, for one, you found the source, you found out where it is, but also to get rid of it. So that's a big part of it. And if you try to do that stuff on your own before contacting your insurer, you may not get your policy paid, because they need to know what's going on and know that it's not going to be back in your environment next week. So a lot of times complying with their regulations, just notifying them the second you have a breach so they can get involved right away. I'm giving some examples of what cyber insurance claims are often paid out. That's things like unauthorized access. So somebody were able to get credentials to your network and they go in and start doing things. This is something that if you follow the right policies, your underwriter will cover. Another one is business interruption. We've seen that happen where whether something has caused your supply chain to go down, maybe one of your vendors has had an issue, or you had a loss in your own organization because of data being lost or being damaged or corrupted, and now you're actually losing business. So that's one of the things that can also be covered. Ransomware, which is pretty obvious. When companies get ransomware, what are you doing? When you get a ransomware attack, it can be expensive. You got to deal with Bitcoin, and if you've never done that stuff, it can be very stressful. Just trying to find Bitcoin to pay somebody. And so usually when you have an insurance policy, they will put you with an organization like ours that can come in and help you get through that process. So those are things that are also covered. Your vendor supply chain, when they're down and now you can't meet your requirements, your commitments to your clients or your vendors or you're part of somebody else's supply chain, that can also be covered. And then data theft, or even just a cyber extortion. Somebody can steal your database, and this has happened about a month and a half, 2 months ago, where a law firm was basically, a few law firms were hacked, and they were extorted into letting their customers' information out, and some of them actually had some lawsuits go against them as a result of that. And so protecting yourself against things that are out of your control are super important. Now, another example of things that are not paid, this is really important, are PCI and HIPAA violations. We had a client a few years back, we did a risk assessment for, and when he went through and said, you know what, it would cost too much to do all of these things, I'm just going to go ahead and get a cyber insurance policy. And we had to break the news to him that, yeah, you can have a policy, but if you're not following the rules and compliances of that insurance policy, they are not going to pay it. So that's a big one right there. So you'll be stuck with those fines on your own. Pre-breach lawsuits. We've had this happen recently where an organization was sued by a customer because they noticed that they had software that was outdated and had known flaws. And because the client's data was in their environment, they sued them to get them to basically beef up their environment. So listen, we can't work with you if you're going to have Windows XP in your environment. And so those pre-breach lawsuits where other companies are doing their due diligence, they could put you at risk. And so, cyber insurance does not cover that kind of stuff. You will be on your own. Social engineering schemes. This is where people are calling in, they're using information you're getting on LinkedIn and Facebook, and they're contacting people within the company. They're recreating invoices, whatever they can do that they're getting information from online. These things are not going to be covered by most cyber insurance claims. You might find some, you can find a loophole. Donald will be speaking to this on Thursday, where it wasn't a social engineering, but it was a social hack. And so there's a fine line, which we'll get into later, about the language in your policies. So making sure you have the right language is also really important, so you don't find yourself holding a bag and no one else to help you. So social engineering schemes is a big way that you can have a claim not paid. So educating your employees with cybersecurity awareness and looking out for different threats should be part of your overall structure anyway. Accidental errors and omissions. So if you delete a database, or start erasing data, or someone else does, that's not covered under cyber insurance. Okay, there are other things to protect that and recover from that, but don't expect to hit up your broker and say, you know what, someone deleted our customer database and we don't have any backups of that, so can you guys help in any way? That's not what they're there for. And if you don't have any good cyber policies, or you have good documentation, this is one of the things that insurance underwriters are looking for. Do you have antivirus? Are you updating your firmware? Are you keeping your network intrusion detection systems updated? Do you know what's going on? If you don't know, and then you go submit a claim and say, oh, we had a virus come in and it installed a malware and now we can't work. And then when they go to ask, well, what tools did you have in place? They say, well, we didn't really have anything, or we have stuff, but we don't know what it is. If it's not documented and you can't prove it, you can expect to get a denied claim. So be aware of that. Now, why would a company need cyber insurance? This is a good question. Not everybody thinks that they need it, especially for some of the smaller businesses. They think they don't have anything that's available. I mean, that's valuable to other organizations, or they think that they're just not on anyone's radar whatsoever. But you'd be surprised. The things that cyber insurance policies can cover are wide-reaching and can be the difference of reopening or shutting your doors. And one of them is covering the legal fees associated with an attack. You're going to have to protect yourself. You're going to get some counsel, especially as people start coming at you for the small claims, saying, hey, listen, your breach caused a problem for me. You need somebody to cover those legal fees. Also, the second you have a breach, you have to find out how it happened. And that means looking in your firewalls, on your desktops, your servers, just knowing where it happened. So cyber insurance policies will give you that cyber forensics investigation that you need to, for one, make sure it's not there, so when you rebuild, it doesn't happen again. but you can potentially go back and recover any losses or what have you. So the investigation is part of the insured, and that's what you want to have for finding those issues. Another thing is ransom and extortion payments. As I mentioned a while ago, if you found out that you cannot recover the data, and they have the data, say they're going to, they're trying to extort you to release it to the public, and you just, you can have copies of it, but if they have a copy too, well, then you're kind of out in the open. And so working with your insured, they will partner you with other agencies like HEED that can help you deal with the payments. That means, it could be buying the Bitcoin, it could be putting into an account that allows you to make sure that the data's been deleted, and then you can then release the funds. Sometimes it's getting it back, sometimes it's getting an encryption key. There's always different. And the thing about hackers nowadays is because they're making so much money on it, they're motivated to find new ways, and they often will get into environments and wait before they launch an attack, so they know exactly how you have to respond, so you have no choices. And then consulting and hardware costs. Another thing that comes with rebuilding after a cyber attack, whether it be, again, a data loss, theft, or what have you, is cleaning your environment. That means wiping all the machines to make sure that it did not spread. It could be rebuilding servers. It could be restoring from backups, resetting up and reestablishing VPNs and connections with vendors. Right now with one of our clients, they have to use an iLead, so when they're communicating with Walmart and Costco, they have to have this integrated system. And so if those things are not in place, then you won't be able to get back in business. So having an organization that can come in and help you rebuild that is important. So cyber insurance will cover those expenses and not leave you out there in the dark by yourself. And then any financial losses due to the attack. So once you can establish a good policy and you can say, hey, listen, we're losing 10, 50, $75,000 a day, get the right policy and you have enough coverage, you can actually recoup those losses while you rebuild. This is very important when seeking out a good policy. Make sure you get the language written correctly so that you are covered under the right scenarios and you know when you're covered and when you're not. Make sure you always know it. Check in with your CFO, your CEO, operations manager. Those people are usually the ones who are dealing with this, because if no one's keeping an eye on the prize, you guarantee it will get taken away. So a recent report by USA Today found that approximately 61% of data breaches are targeting small businesses. And now, again, small businesses, they're just doing their thing. They're opening up, it could be a hair salon, it can be an exterminator, it can be a financial planner, it can be a tutor, it doesn't matter. Small businesses, 1 person, 10 people, 50 people, these targets are huge for cyber criminals because they know you. First of all, when they get into your environments, they know how much money you have, they've been monitoring your screens, you log into your banks, they see your invoices, incoming, outgoing. When they can see all of that, they know what you can pay. And again, 85,000, I've seen them for as low as 15,000. And then we also had a client who recently paid out $1 million. $1 million, because if you're down for a week, you can be losing customers, not just not making money, but you can be losing customers. And so the range is wide, and it's very, very serious. And many small businesses are fronting the cost of these cyber attacks because they just don't take it serious. So be aware of all that, folks. Another good question we get up: what kind of businesses need cyber insurance? Does a mechanic need cyber insurance, or the dentist needs cyber insurance? There's lots of different types of companies, and cyber liability insurance sometimes, sure, for cybersecurity, privacy, and media liability insurance helps your company respond in the event of a cyber attack or data breach. So it doesn't matter how big a company you are, especially if you're a small one. If you have that coverage, that could be all the difference of, can you find out what to do? Can you get up and running? Or are you just going to try to build everything from scratch? So getting those resources to help you rebuild, major key to your business success. So companies that should have cyber insurance, companies who take payments online. So if you're going to be falling under PCI, whether you're you're doing them on through your website, whether you're just doing them, you're documenting information and you're going through like a web portal, you need to have cyber insurance. If you process or store any kind of personal health information or personal cardholder information about anybody, you need cyber insurance. If you have any critical parts of your business that are outsourced in any way, that means that now, if they're down, you're down. Cyber insurance, if the right policy is in place, can protect you or your losses and help you get back up and running or find a different solution if you have the right policy. This is one of the key areas that a lot of folks don't realize. And when you're speaking with your broker or whoever's writing your policies, the language is key. Language is key. You got to ask the right questions. Make sure that you're thinking outside the box. When you run your risk assessments, you want to find out what needs to be insured, what kind of scenarios can come up, and what might our exposure be. And then there's businesses that are wanting to manage their exposure to risk due to any cyber-related incidences. I mean, if you're just looking to say, listen, you know what? There are things happening. We have our employees working at home, more people on the road. We're opening up our environment to many more areas. Cyber insurance is how you can at least minimize that exposure to risk and anything really big taking the company out. And so, what is a cyber insurance policy needed most? That's a great question. You know, a lot of people think that it's just a matter of, you know, once you get to a certain size or what have you, but you will need a policy most when a ransomware hits you and you don't know what to do. You know, it's not just a matter of like, oh, do you go to the restore and do a backup? It's like, what do we do? If you got a ransomware, you got to pay Bitcoin, and you don't know where to get that, that's when a policy is going to help you out. But the moment you realize a vendor has had a breach and now your clients are about to get exposed, so let's just say you are a lab and you're sending labs results to another portion of the business to then cross-reference those with something else. Well, if they have a breach, now your clients are going to get exposed as well. And so that's when you can protect yourself and not be as exposed. And that way you can let your customers know that there has been a breach. That's where the cyber insurance kicks in. If there's anything that you need to do to protect your environment, again, the policy will help keep you guys safe and up and running. When your web servers are attacked, so another thing is a denial of service attack, and that's an interruption of business. If all of a sudden your site's down, you know, people can't process orders, they can't check on the status of things. These are areas where if you have the proper security in place, the cyber insurance policy can cover any potential losses if you have the right language and you have the right coverage. Another thing is making sure you have enough coverage depending on the type of business you have. If you're only doing $5,000 to $10,000 a day, then you probably won't need $1 million. You might get away with, you know, $20,000 to $50,000. But if you're doing 50 grand a day, 50 grand a week, you might want to increase that, especially if you have a lot of information from other people that makes you an even greater target. And so the potential losses can spread through many areas. So we usually like to recommend about $500,000 to $1 million at the very minimum. But again, if you're a smaller organization, $250,000 may be enough. And then, you know, when you ever get that email that says, you know, we've got a copy of the data, we're going to release it. If you don't pay this, that's when you want to have someone on your side. And the good thing about cyber insurance companies is they're going to usually work with multiple partners based on your needs, not just send you to one place. And so aside from them covering the expense of that, they really want you to be up and running because, you know, they need you to keep paying your policy. And so working with them to work with the right vendors, so you can either, you know, pay the Bitcoin if you need to, or just get your data back. That's when you're going to need these guys the most. So you can get the assistance without having to rely on anybody in the house already to suddenly become an expert in negotiations, because negotiations on payments is a big part of it. You never want to pay 100%, but if you got no room to stand or no leg to stand on, then you might be stuck doing that. But you want someone who understands. And a lot of times, a lot of these cyber criminal organizations, they have a process that they work with. And many times, as we go through and we're dealing with them, you might have dealt with the same person. Like, I know you worked with us on this particular case, but can you work with us here? Or understanding, you know, where they are in the world or the languages that they speak. So again, having the right policy can get you the right partners to get you back up and running as soon as possible. So where do you get cyber insurance? It's a great question. It's not like you can just, not everybody carries it, and not everybody offers good policies for doing so. And so one of the things you can do is, you want to check with, some of the big players in the industry, like Chubb. Chubb is one of the larger players, so is Markel. Once again, we're going to have Jafir from Markel on with us on Thursday, and Kirsten from Cysurance, who's a broker. Their policies are underwritten by Chubb. So these are two big players that we like to work with, because we know, one, we can work with them, but we also know that they pay more than they don't, and so having a insurance underwriter who has a reputation of paying versus trying to take you to court is important. Allianz is another big player. Travelers Group is another one, and of course, Heed Consulting Group. That's right. We don't sell actual insurance, but what we can do is through our partnerships with Cysurance, we can provide it. So what we do, and oftentimes working with your MSP or whoever you have overseeing your IT, they will know what you have and can kind of give you an idea, at least work with your CFO or the owners or the board to say, listen, this is the areas of exposure. You know how much you're making per day. If these scenarios 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 were to occur, this is how long we would be down. And then that way you can figure out, this is what our potential losses will be. We can figure out how much it's going to cost to get back out running. Therefore, this is how much insurance you should have. And then last but not least, of course, you can check with your existing brokers. I know that some of the ones farmers may, but not always offer all coverage. So check with your brokers, but at least be checking because you don't want to not have it. But sorry, and of course, coverage varies by insurer and policy. Not all policies are the same. Of course, not all coverage is the same, and not all the language is going to be the same. You got to do your homework and find out that you are covered and get everything that you need so you can not be frustrated when you go to make a claim and no one wants to pay. Another big question, how much is cyber insurance? Yeah, I know. Everybody wants to know. This is the 1H after the 5 W's, and it's a good question. We find that most companies purchase cyber liability insurance policy with about $1 million coverage and $10,000 deductible. And so that's a good average. That's going to cost you, a few $100s a month. But the good thing about it is, if you have the right insurance, anything you pay a month is going to be drops in the bucket. Because I can tell you right now, just for when we do a cyber response, our going rate is $2,500 per day. And then we will come in and, it's not just for one person, we'll work as a team. But it usually takes about 4 days to really get a grip on everything, find out all the backups, start cleaning things up, and get the companies back up and running. So the shortest we've ever done has been a couple of days, but it's actually taken a couple of weeks before, especially when you have a lot of moving parts, a lot of people are traveling. So this is a real key area that insurance can cover that. You don't want to be looking at that invoice, because I'll tell you right now, we don't want to argue about it, but it takes a lot of work to find out how things happen and then to make sure that we've got it removed and completely out of the environment. So, and then of course the policies will go up depending on how much data you have. So when you're looking into cost, do you have PHI, do you have PCI, or do you just have important information to your business? It all depends, and that will determine what your rates will be like. I can tell you right now, a well-crafted cyber insurance policy, can transfer that risk from being all on you to at least having someone who can share the situation. Someone who can get you out of it. You usually get a project manager that will work with you and just oversee the entire process. Well-crafted insurance policy can transfer risk and provide a safety net to reduce liability costs and help sustain your business if a serious cyber event should happen, and it will. So I know what you're probably asking right now, well, gee, after all that, how can he help in a situation? Well, as I mentioned before, He does offer cyber insurance through Cyber Insurance as a part of our offerings. For all of our clients, we'd like to include a standard. If none of our clients want to take it, we at least make it available to them. We provide them a quote right up front, usually $250, $500, or $1 million coverage, but we can offer that to all of our clients. Something that we offer that we're going to be covering next week will be cyber insurance compliance. And that's about making sure that your environment does have all the documentation to show that you're being diligent, protecting your environment, protecting your assets. We offer this service monthly where we come in, run our initial risk assessments, and then we just work with your management team to do whatever is necessary to strengthen your environment, which can also lower your policy claims and your premiums. If you can show that you are doing what it takes to protect your environment, then you will be able to lower your premiums. So our cyber insurance compliance as a service program is all about helping you save money on your insurance, but also ensuring that you have your policies paid. Our project management to set up your cybersecurity policies. Once again, you can have compliance, but you really need to have a set of policies in place, and that can mean training for your employees, making sure that you have certain AV on all the machines. It could be the types of continuity solutions you have in place. It could be how machines are locked down, disabling USB ports, just all kinds of things to look into. And once we perform that risk management, once we perform a risk assessment, that's when we can identify where you're exposed, make those recommendations, and either have your team do it or we can do it on your behalf. So we can help in many different ways. And then, of course, the full service cybersecurity procedures and training and management, we can do the whole process for you. Our team can come in, become a part of your team. We do training sessions. We write complete policies. We work with management. We report to management. We've sat in on audits. We've sat in on board meetings. We can be your cyber security partner and making sure that your environment is safe, working with your insurance carriers, working with your board, whoever, to secure your environment. And then we also offer NIST compliance as a service. And NIST is the National Institute of Standards and Technology. They usually set standards for the government to proceed and how they should handle data. So they make those standards available to the public, and we often use them as our reference point for our clients. And so instead of just going off of best practices, which we always do, we also adhere to NIST compliance standards. And so they have them for business continuity, cybersecurity, and just general IT management. And so we offer NIST compliance as a service, which will, by default, improve your overall cyber posture. And so with that being said, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. If you have any questions, which I'm always available to answer, preferably by email, also by phone, you can reach me at 818-356-7187. You can also email me, mbowers@heedconsultinggroup.com. And of course, you can always go to our website. We have a chat on there where you can always chat with Kelly or whoever is manning the chat at the time. You can also scan the QR code there in the bottom right corner. We give my contact information as well as my LinkedIn. Well, that's our presentation for today. Kelly, I can hear you there. We want to wish everybody a stay home and stay safe, and make sure that, if you guys are working from home, keep your eye on the prize. Know that this will end as long as everybody stays diligent and working towards the big picture. Everything will be okay.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. This was great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys for attending. If you have any questions, once again, 818-356-7187. You scan a QR code here to give us some feedback. But in the meantime, thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Remember, Thursday, 11 a.m., Roundtable Cyber Insurance for Small Businesses. Thank you. Bye-bye.